Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And today we are doing part 2 to a discussion that we had back in February 3rd to be exact, with Mr. Aaron Tillman. And our topic is vulnerability and processing through adversity. Vulnerability and processing through adversity. But before I bring Aaron on, I need to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and your comments and questions are welcome. So this is an interactive live, and we want to hear from you. So let us know in the comments what city and state you are tuning in from. I see a few folks on already. Janita, good evening, here in the Tallahassee area. Miss Tracy Gole, who may be here, but she may be in Pensacola as well. So thank you for joining us. And so please like, tag, share, let the people know they need to be on here, because this topic is very much so needed. I was listening to our conversation from 6 months ago. I can't believe it's been 6 months. And I was like, man, the things that we were talking about are still relative, right? And so we're going to dive a little deeper, because many of you said you wanted a part 2. So here it is. All right. I see we got Vel with us. Thank you for being here. She's also here in Tallahassee. Appreciate you so much. All right. I'm going to share some of Aaron's bio. Aaron Tillman is an award-winning higher education professional with extensive experience in counseling, academic advising, student athlete development, and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. A native of Colorado Springs, and holds a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, go Rattlers, where he also participated in the Marching 100 and began his career as an athletic academic advisor. He holds a master's degree in counseling and human systems from FSU, go Knowles, and is currently the owner of Inspire Hope Collective LLC, providing counseling support to young adults and the greater community of Tallahassee. Now, he's got a lot of awards and accolades, so I'm not going to read all of those, but just know that he is here to serve the people. So y'all help me welcome Mr. Aaron Tillman.
Man.
Welcome.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you so much for that introduction. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. So, Aaron, tell the people, who is Aaron Tillman? Not what you do, but who are you?
So I am a person, honestly, who just loves community. I just love being in the midst of community with others. I love to be able to find anything that makes me laugh. I'm a family man at the end of it. Being able to be home with my son, being able to be home with my wife, and be able to just hang out and enjoy company with them is really what I enjoy. I love a good bite to eat. I love a good bite to eat. God knows, if I can find a good place to sit down and get something to grub on, I will do that. So I'm really just a person who loves community and loves being able to be around people.
Love it. All right, and tell the folks a little bit about Inspire.
Yes. So Inspire Hope Collective is my practice, my private practice, but also my business where I help to do mental wellness and self awareness training with organizations, various schools, and just different industries to be able to better provide a sense of leadership. But also help people understand themselves to a greater degree. So, really, it's rooted around inspiring hope in their lives so that they can navigate the complexity from what they're experiencing. And I started my practice in my business probably about 8 months ago now, and it has grown tremendously. So I'm grateful to be able to do the work of counseling, but also to be able to work in a sense to help people just be better leaders in general.
Nice. Love that. Love that. Love that. All right. And so you're here in Tallahassee, served the entire state of Florida, correct?
Correct.
All right. Virtual or in person?
Both, actually.
Both.
Versus.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. And insurance or private pay?
So private pay.
Okay. Very good. And are you taking any new clients at this time?
I am taking new clients at this time.
All right, very good. So we will get you all Aaron's information at the end, but just know that this is a clinician that is ready, willing, and able to serve your needs. All right. All right. So I want to read my disclaimer just because I have a clinician on, and that is that all topics, past, present, and future, on Conversations with Nicole are for information purposes only. They are not to be used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic being discussed before, during, or after the program, meaning you need to talk to a professional, okay? Potentially. So, all right. Well, I want to dive right on in. So I think a good place for us to start would be with a recap of our previous discussion. We talked previously, and for those of you who missed it, please go back to Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel under the live playlist and go to February 3rd of this year, and you'll see the link for the discussion that we had. But we talked about vulnerability, we defined it, vulnerability versus transparency, which they are not the same thing. We also talked about, and I'm looking through my notes here, my handy dandy notebook. We talked about the stigma of vulnerability. We talked about self-awareness. We talked about healing. We talked about trust, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes we can have issues with trusting someone to be vulnerable with. And that being important and something that we choose every day, right? We choose to be vulnerable with people. We talked about, oh, somebody said something real catchy. It was like, let's be curious, not furious. And I forget who said that, but good. And you said something too. You said, because I've been listening to that show. You said your health is your business.
Hmm.
And you're
Hmm.
not taking care of your health, you're not taking care of your business.
That's right. That's right. Just the reality of the significance and importance of our health and remaining curious about it, I think is key.
Yes, it is. It is. All right. We got a few more folks that joined us. I want to acknowledge them. As Tangi Jones, thank you for being here. And Mr. Marcus Boston in the Tampa area, thank you for joining us. So Janita wants to know, do you accept payment from FSA?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. All right, so let's talk. I mean, if you don't mind, can you give us that definition again of vulnerability?
Yeah, so just vulnerability, looking at the reality of emotional vulnerability when I'm saying that. So, emotional vulnerability, being able to put yourself in a place where you are being exposed and open to what you're experiencing. So, more so relative to your feelings and your emotions. Whereas transparency is where you're just sharing the truth of what something is. So, you're just being open rather than actually talking about your feelings and emotions.
Mhm. And
Mm,
so a lot of times we are transparent, but not necessarily vulnerable.
correct. So we could be saying something. I could say like, "Oh, you know, I I saw so and so in this, and that. And you might just say it, but not actually be talking about like when you experienced that there was a certain feeling or emotion, or there was an undertone, some sort of aspect
Mhm.
that made you feel something. And I think there's this reality of suppression of our feelings that exists where we just don't often want to talk about that. So we just, that hurts transparency if we're unable to feel vulnerable about what we're actually doing.
It absolutely does. And so that was some of what we discussed last time, because you stepped all on my feet, my toes, everything was just, yeah, you crushed me. So I got my tissues ready today. Just I need it because, oh, yes, you were dropping some gems last time. So I think a good place for us to start is, and you and I talked about this prior
Mhm.
to the, coming on the live tonight,
Right.
is self-awareness, self-awareness and self-awareness in terms of working on being present rather than performing.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yes. So there's this reality, Nicole, just from what we got to talk about a little bit before, where we want people to fall in love with a curated version of ourselves.
Mm.
So it's hard to actually show up authentically where we know there are certain things we are modifying or we're editing to present a certain way.
Mhm.
So what happens is that this curated version, this edited version, stops us from actually being able to be authentic. And we come to this place of, wanting to be self aware. It's difficult to be self aware when we don't even focus on like what we're feeling, what's happening in our lives to actually step into that. So there's this curated version, and it's a tendency that we all have because we've just learned to judge emotions as opposed to express them.
Hmm. So talk a little bit about that. I think that that whole judging of the emotions piece is huge, right? Because we hear about emotional regulation or the
Mm,
need to regulate our emotions. And I will say this, most recently, I have been hearing more about emotions versus feelings, right? Emotions being like what we are maybe sensing in our body, you know,
mhm,
as it
mhm.
relates to whatever is happening with us, our thoughts or our experience, right? And then the feelings being more of the story or the what we attach to those emotions and maybe that experience.
You got it. You're hitting it. So emotions almost as if, and you see like sometimes a feelings wheel, if you
Mhm.
will. So you may see like if folks are familiar with that feelings wheel, there's a number of different feelings as though there's a spectrum of what's happening, but emotions being the larger aspects of like shame or anger or yeah, I mean I don't know if folks have seen the movie Inside Out, but I think
Yes,
Inside
favorite.
I
The
think
Inside Out T-shirt
I
with
think
emotions on there.
yes, yes. I think Inside Out does a wonderful job of it because it shows what's actually happening, what's
Mm,
controlling us at the moment, or what emotions are maybe conflicting with one another that
yeah.
are resulting in this feeling. But I think you said it like the story that's actually happening that's being attached to the
Mhm.
emotion. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling I'm experiencing an emotion of anger, but I was feeling aggravated in that moment.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
angry, but I'm really aggravated, or
Yeah.
I'm angry because I'm frustrated over something. So
Mhm.
I'm feeling frustrated.
Yes, all of that. All right. Miss Jeanette has joined us down in Miami Gardens. Thank you for being here. And
Yeah.
Miss Karen Miller, who is here in Tally, thank you for joining us. Marcus said the thought of being vulnerable again still makes me nervous, although I've had over a year of weekly consistent therapy.
Mm.
So
I want to dive into.
yeah, I mean, and thank you for sharing, Marcus, for number
Yes.
one, for your willingness to be open about or be transparent about uh vulnerability and maybe the nervousness or fear associated with it. It can be a scary thing. And I think the last 6 months ago you mentioned about trust issues, right? Like not having an issue with being vulnerable with somebody that you may have trusted, but maybe they betrayed the trust, or you found out that you could not be vulnerable with them. And so it's understandable why you would be nervous about that.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think, Marcus, to what you're sharing, just having to put it into practice is hard because we we have patterns and behaviors that have formed over years, and having to kind of go the other direction to rewire your mind, but also get your body stretching a muscle that it hasn't before, of like actually opening up. And I think what you mentioned, Nicole, just trusting, practicing trusting, and that exercise is difficult.
For sure. All right. Janita said, I love Inside Out.
It's phenomenal. Both of them are.
It
Yeah.
is. All right. So she said, isn't it necessary to have a curated version of ourselves, especially in the workplace? Good question.
You hitting on some good things, Janita, here, because I think that's a major topic, and there are so many implications that come along with that. I think just the first thing that comes along my mind are some of the cultural and racial implications that bring us to places to present as curated, because curated often means we are less expressive, maybe we're less vocal, maybe we are having to say something in a certain way, which sometimes is out of a place of fear because of a job that potentially could be lost, or fear of the reality of how someone might perceive something. But it also can be the other side, where it's like, where I want to maybe be approved or accepted to be able to attain a certain status or reputation. So a lot of it sometimes is said is that it's a game. Sometimes you feel like you have to play a game of, am I being myself completely, or do I have to be something else to move along this line or this trajectory or whatever it is. And I think the workplace can be one of the most difficult places to navigate this aspect in, because it's where we spend, if we are working in any sort of industry, it's where we're spending the majority of our time. So
Mm-hmm.
as we're spending most of our time there, there is an easy desire or push to want to just disappear in the workplace. You just
Mm-hmm.
want to disappear and not want to have to actually speak up to that supervisor or to that colleague that has continually microaggressed against you, or to be able to have a healthy level of conflict where I may hurt this person's feelings if I'm just sharing and being honest or being truthful.
Ugh.
Now,
Oof. That is so true. I mean, I think about organizational behavior.
mhm,
And so there is some conforming, if you will, or some curation that takes place because we're
yes,
trying to fit into this organization, especially if it's not our business, or our, we're not solopreneurs or entrepreneurs that, are in control of the business. So in some regards, yes, you have to kind of fall in line, right?
yeah. That, and I think it's a hard line to walk in any sort of industry, and I think self-awareness kind of comes into play for me to know,
Mhm.
do I have the self-awareness to know that I'm shifting in this moment where I am typically not this way?
Yeah.
And as I know that and I'm navigating that, how do I assess that, toward the end of the day or toward whatever my aim is? But it is challenging. And I think that everyone navigates that to a degree.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. For sure. So, what comes to mind to me is identifying maybe a sub tribe or culture within the work environment.
Mhm.
Because I feel like human beings we're tribal. We are looking for our village, our crew, our clique, whatever the case may be, right? And we have several of them, right? You know, one's in the workplace, at the worship place, or
Right.
our even maybe on our block, or whatever the case may be. And so finding those safe places, or safe folks that we can be vulnerable with
Mhm.
within these kind of ecosystems that we're involved in, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
we need it, Nicole. I think being able to find a place where you can speak to those about what you're experiencing, and like I had mentioned earlier, I think the workplace just feels or can be one of the most challenging, but also, um encouraging if we find that group of people who resonate with what we're experiencing. We
Mhm.
can feel less of a tendency or proclivity to have to shift,
Mhm.
and there's people who can actually help us feel okay with our identities in the workplace, because I
Mhm.
think a lot of it sometimes boils down to some of the more salient identities that are sometimes more evident, like we see race, and or sexuality or whatever it may be. People navigate so many different identities in the workplace, so I
Mhm.
do think finding that place like Nicole shared where you can be vulnerable, but you can also have people that challenge you, because I think it's like a pendulum. You might be so vulnerable that people are now perceiving you as, man, like, are they just unable to put boundaries in place?
Mhm.
And you might not be vulnerable enough to the point where people are just making decisions for you.
Ooh, that's good too. I mean, so there's a balance in it all, right?
There is. There
Mhm.
is. And I think coming back to this place of self-awareness, are we aware of what's happening in that ecosystem that we're placed in, and are we moving toward a place where it's bringing us to honesty or integrity? Do we want that, in the workplace, or are we looking towards something else? Because everyone's motivation might be different, in what they're seeking and what they're trying to accomplish. But I do think being able to look at whatever your workplace might be or industry might be, to say, have I drifted so far from my own level of self-awareness
Mhm.
to I might need to reevaluate and start to be in a place where I can embrace my authenticity, to say, okay, this is who I am, and I'm not having to shift or be, whatever it may be, frustrated or upset, or, someone said so and so forth. And I'm always going back to my desk mad because I
Mhm.
don't feel like I can express or talk about what I'm experiencing.
Right, right. So I want to uh, question the viewers in terms of what you just said. Do you all, I want to know if you all are experiencing difficulty with authenticity or vulnerability for that matter, in the workplace or just period. Let us know. Are you experiencing some issue with authenticity or with vulnerability? I think, we all talk about wearing masks
Mhm.
and I think that's that curated, if you will, version of ourselves, right? To fit whatever the environment might be. And so, but still, I feel like we can still show up authentically, but just a little bit modified, right?
Yeah, and I think what you said, Nicole, is perfect. Where there's no balance really in it. It's not going to be like 50-50, and
Mhm.
a lot of it, but it's really how do we live more integrated, I
Yeah,
think, is the question. And how do we find a way to integrate ourselves into the workplace, to be able to meet the needs and not place the needs on other people to meet for us.
I like
And
that.
that's often what happens is we experience an offense, and when we experience an offense, we kind of create a hidden assumption or expectation to say, well, this person needs to fix this offense because they offended me,
Mm,
they hurt me or whatever it may be. But um asking the reverse question to say, well, how can I put a need in place for myself or an expectation for myself to
mhm.
be able to integrate myself more into this type of work that I'm doing?
Now, and I'm gonna get to your comment in just a moment, Marcus, but one of the things that we mentioned last time was about the need for closure.
Mm,
So we had a whole discussion
we
about
do.
how we want I was talking about how, I want to have this conversation with this person about the ending of the relationship or the shift in
Mhm.
the relationship or what have you. And I was telling y'all about my counselor saying, okay, so you gonna have to find that within yourself, because maybe this person don't want to have that conversation and doesn't require this closure, if you will. And so I think that there is a level of resolve that we have to come to within ourselves, because of course we cannot control people. And although we may think things should be a certain way, they have a whole nother way of thinking about it.
Yeah, and that's a whole gold mine in and of itself of what you just said, Nicole, of like where we tend to go. And I think what happens even in that is there's a level of discomfort that we just don't want to have to deal with, because it's kind of easier to say I want to fix what's happened as opposed to like navigate what I actually felt and
Mm,
experienced in a situation. So it's almost like that, what we're mentioning, that expectation is like, well, I want some closure. I want to talk to this person or do whatever I have kind of made it to be, what I've kind of defined closure to be, where it could
right.
absolutely be. You may not get that created version of closure that you're looking for.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Janetta has joined us. Thank you for being here. Also, Mama Yada, she said truth. Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. Marcus said, in the workplace, I'm at peace and confident. I'm open and free to engage everyone professionally.
Mm,
Professional me and personal me are two different people. Okay. Interesting. So again, that goes back to the mask piece, right?
mhm, mhm,
But are both professional you and personal you able to be vulnerable in those different settings? That's the question.
mhm. And I think that's another piece too. And I think even in talking about that, you mentioned it earlier, Nicole, finding spaces where you can be
Mhm.
vulnerable, because not everybody has the capacity to hold what you have to share.
Absolutely.
And you may share something that is vulnerable, where you might have thought they had that and then found out, oh, they just don't have that.
So I want to pause right there because I think that is huge. Not everybody has the capacity to hold what you have to share. I just want y'all to let that marinate for a minute. Because you might be thinking, oh, I could just tell, this person, that person, this and that. And they don't want to hear that. They could care less about your troubles or what is on your mind, what you feeling, what you thinking. Mm, sound like a
And I
person
think
problem to me.
and I think what you're sharing it's hard. I think it's
It
hard
is, but it's
because
real.
when we're sharing, it's just easy to say this person is going to empathize with me. This person, you're kind of expecting them to empathize with you, and what they give you
Yeah.
is not that. And then you feel like, oh, well, I feel a little judged, or maybe I feel as though, I thought I could share this with this person, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. When do we take responsibility for that though? Because this person, I mean, I don't even know if the person was like, "Hey, I'm here, to hold space for you, to listen to whatever's going on with you." I mean, that's what you front for, Aaron. That's what you are for, sir.
And I think that's what it comes down to, Nicole, too, is I think coming back to self-awareness. If people would take the moment to assess themselves, to be able to say, do I have the capacity to hold what this person is sharing? Did it trigger something in me to say, ooh, like what they said? I don't know if I could really hold that. And we call it, like, in the field, we call it a scope of competence.
Mm.
So the scope of competence says, I know what I'm able to work with, and I know what I'm not able to work with. And do I have that level of understanding what I know I can, to say, all right, I need to refer this person, like you said, to a clinician, who has an expertise or a skill set based off of what this person might be experiencing.
Yep.
Not everybody can hold the reality of grief that you experience, that you had
Mhm.
a loss in your life. Not everybody can understand or relate or resonate with the relationship that just ended, of 8 years, or whatever you might be in. Not everybody can hold that. And I think, for people and clinicians to assume that you can with no experience that you have worked with individuals in that capacity is setting you up.
I don't know if y'all heard all of that, but I'm just saying. So Janita said that's why we need emotional
That's
intelligence and
right.
perception. Bingo.
That's right, Janita. Yep. Right.
Bingo. That is
Right on.
exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
That is
And
exactly why.
that's all framed in self-awareness, being able to understand, what are the themes in my life that are consistent. And I take a look back to say, okay, if those are consistent, this person sharing with this, how do I know I'm going to react in this moment? And how do I typically react? And being able to assess and say, okay, well, so and so shared this with me at the workplace. It made me feel really overwhelmed to the point where I couldn't even help them think through what they were going through. So, like you mentioned, Nicole, I should refer this person to somebody else who might be able to assist and support them, instead of assuming that I'm going to be the expert for what they're experiencing or try to navigate their complexity.
Yeah. And I think really we need to be identifying those people in our lives ourselves and not
Mhm.
thinking that your coworker, just because they in proximity to you, is that person. They
Mhm.
might be, but they might not be. So don't get mad at them. Don't think that they judging you. The only thing they judging is why you thought I could hold your stuff.
Yes.
No, I'm
Yes.
not that person.
Or what happens even too is, like, you might confide and be vulnerable, and you might be expecting some reciprocity or some empathy, and instead, you got their experience, what they were experiencing too, which is typical.
That part, right? So listen,
Yeah.
I'm a conversationalist. Okay.
Yes.
Most times when I'm talking to people, if I bring up something related to me, they're going to attach an experience they had with it. And so I let them have it
Yep.
and, keep it moving.
Yeah.
But people do that. Like if you really listen to them and you are trying to tell them about whatever it is going on with you, they're gonna relate it to them. Like I'm telling you about the time I went to Disney World, and you gonna tell me about the time you went to Disney World. I get it. I mean, but can you just listen to me about my time?
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes, one of the things in this level of vulnerability, in this place of, like, self-awareness, one of the things is friendships. And I think about, like, friendships and even, like, the expectations that you might have for a friendship in that as well too, because like you said, you might be sharing, and, you might just dump a whole load and just say, I just needed to share that with you, and I don't necessarily need an answer or whatever it may be. And they might just be like, well, yeah, I remember the time when I also did this. And then you find yourself, like you said, and it's easy because we're wired that way. I think it's okay when you're in conversation, but I think if the expectation is some level of empathy or some level to help you process, then you start to have to kind of get to a place to say, okay, capacity. Do I capacity? Do I have it to assist this person, or should I help them navigate and redirect to someone who might be able to?
Yes. All right. So we are a little more than halfway through our conversation. For those of you who are just tuning in, I am on with clinician Aaron Tillman. We are talking vulnerability and processing through adversity. We're about to get to the adversity part in just a minute. But this is part two of a conversation that we had in February of this year. And so this is really, really good. I see that Ishmael, my FAMU freshman brother, has joined us out of Gainesville. He said, nope. Like the cliche goes, some folks can't hold water. This is very true. Ish some folks can't. Janita said, when our DEI grassroots efforts were dismantled. I felt discouraged and betrayed. Things are getting better as I am connecting one on one with my tribe. Love it.
Mm,
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I was again listening to our previous conversation, and one of the things that we talked about was community in
mm,
February of this year, how we need to find community. We need to connect with the community that we already have and establish some new communities, establish some new tribes, because we're going to need them now more than ever before with the dismantling of everything that is taking place right now. Right. So we gotta grab hold to him. We gotta grab hold to him. My mom has joined us. Thank you for being here, Ma. I love you. Let's see. Marcus said, I'm only vulnerable at work in the things that pertain to my job activities and deliverables. I can take constructive criticism for mess ups and being highlighted for doing well. Love it. I love it. I
good.
love
Yeah,
it.
that's good.
That is.
And
He also said, I learned to listen to coworkers without adding any information or feedback unless they ask for it. Woo!
mm,
Now that's some discipline right there.
that's discipline. That's a skill too, Marcus, that you've learned to be able to hold that, to be able to say, is that what you like? Would you like some feedback on that? Or, do you want me to just listen to what you're sharing? I think that is really a key element of self-awareness, to know what people want you, what they need from you.
And I would say that is a great takeaway for all of us, folks that are listening real time and the people that will listen to the replay. Ask the people who are
Mm,
telling you whatever they telling you. Do you just want me to listen or do you want feedback?
mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
Mm. There's a saying, and the word is tabula rasa, and my mentor always says it, and it means blank slate.
Okay.
So being able to, we have to approach people with a blank slate,
Mm.
and the key is seeing them as they are and not as we are.
Mm.
Because often we see them as we are, and we want them to be able to be just like us, or to respond in a way that we would. So what Marcus is sharing is that reality of, like, I see you as you are,
That's good.
and I hear you.
That's good. That's real good, in fact. S mm. I really like that. Kesey has joined us here in Tallahassee. Thank you for being here. Donda has joined us as well. Kesey said, "That was good." Yes, that's important, Marcus. People just offer advice without you asking. Yes, they
Mm,
do,
mhm,
because they can cause an unintentional confrontation.
mm,
It can
mm.
cause unintentional confrontation. We don't want that. Janita, I like that, Marcus. I need to work on that. Yes, I think we all do. So thank you for that tidbit, Marcus. That was really good.
Yeah,
All right.
it's
So
excellent.
I, that blank slate piece is good though, because, and not that we don't bring our experiences with us, but like you said, approaching people as a blank slate and seeing them for who they are, not who you think they are, want them to be, or hope that they are.
There you go. There you go.
Look,
Because
uh,
everything has to come
yeah,
from.
and
Uh-huh.
and not you. Like, they aren't you. So even though you would do thus and so in this particular situation, don't mean they gonna do that.
Yeah, it's being able to see them differently, and this comes back to what you asked me at the beginning, toward that the our half here, is the self-awareness to be present and not feel like you have to perform. Because
Mm,
the push is to perform, to put on the theatrics so that they might accept you, so that
mm.
they might see you a certain way, whatever it may be. But when you're present, you can pause in that to say, oh, there's a stop sign right here. We're gonna both stop at this stop sign. And we'll go when you're ready, you know?
Go when you're ready. Go when you're ready. Oh my goodness. What was the word that's blank slate? So repeat
Yep,
the
tabula, Tabula, and then the second word is rasa, Rasa, tabula rasa.
all right. Look, y'all didn't know y'all was gonna get vocabulary here tonight, did you? We're gonna have a spelling test at the end of the show. Oh goodness. All right. So let's get to the adversity piece. All right. Adversity, because there's quite a bit of adversity taking place on a daily basis. I don't consider myself to be highly political, but
Mm,
boy, boy, are there some things that are happening right now that are affecting people's lives in ways that they never thought it would affect them. And
yes.
so, what do we do? What do we do? How do we process through?
Yeah. So I think there is so much happening. And I said this at a conference some time back, but essentially we are experiencing adversity to where our infrastructures are unable to keep up with the actual environment.
Mm,
So we have things that are put in place that are unable to even keep up with all of the disorder that's being caused. So what's happening is that we see everything happen, and I'm just going to use an example. You might be watching the news, and watching the news you might see that there was a shooting on a campus somewhere. So you feel that because you see people that look like you might see that gun laws just drop the age of who can wield a gun in the United States. And then you might say, oh man, it's again, here we go again. You might start to feel all of these different things. So it can do a couple of different things. It can cause you to put yourself in a place where I need to take responsibility for this. And I need to this larger problem that is environmental, but also impacts you on a daily basis. I need to do something about this. So finding ways, I think, to get involved and advocate and be a part of communities that are making a difference, between legislation, between trying to gather and corral. I think those are all helpful and beneficial. We need those to be able to change things that impact our daily living. But I also think it can do the other thing where you see all of these things happening and you just get angry and frustrated,
mm,
but it causes you to kind of repress and withdraw to say, I just want to move to Europe and just be somewhere where it's not happening. So there's this level of we might feel all of these things, which brings us to a place of everything is so bad all the time, is what it can feel like. And we want to just escape, to have to not go through this difficulty that we're going through. But the reality of it is that it's actually shaping us. It's
mm,
shaping us unconsciously and putting us in a place where we're having to make mental decisions about how we want to move forward through all of this. How are we going to protect our children? How are we going to do so and so forth? How are we going to live our daily lives if we know that these tariffs exist, and things are just going up everywhere? There's so many things that are causing us to feel like we have to make decisions about them.
yeah.
And I think getting into community where we can talk about these things and process, always speaking toward counseling as well too, if you need to process some of these experiences, but also understanding that adversity is actually good to shape you, to help build resilience.
Mm,
Because I think what this can do is put us in a place where we may already be at, which is, let's just avoid the pain. Let's just avoid the pain of what's actually happening, as opposed to deal with ourselves internally and see what's happening. And as we deal with it internally, work towards solutions if we feel the need to advocate and be a part of a solution. But I think it does either or, where it puts us on this pendulum of saying, well, it's just terrible and the world sucks. So I'm just going to talk about how badly the world sucks and really not get involved. Or I feel like I need to get involved with everything. And
mhm.
then I get overwhelmed because I'm not exactly sure what I should be focusing on. So
Right.
it can do a lot of different things, but I think if we are to process it, we have to get to our internal motivations. We have to understand what are some of the things happening inside of us that are speaking to us, that are causing us difficulty in this adversity. Because I
Mm,
think it can do a number of things, but those are two of the things that I think I see the most, is where there's just so much pain that I don't want to deal with the pain, because it's just easier to go on in life and say, I'm just going to do me and
Mhm.
and take care of who I need to take care of, which, I think it can be helpful to an extent, but I
Mhm.
also think if we are working towards saying, do we want to be a part of this? If so, how can we? So finding out practical ways to say, I can't I can't change the world,
Right.
but as my pastor says, I can change the world around me. I can
Ab
change the world around me.
Understood, understood. We got a few folks that joined us. I just want to pause and acknowledge them. Brother Quasi out of Atlanta, peace and blessings. Thank you for being here. And Miss Kiosha from Tallahassee, thank you for joining us. So, oh, and Sharice in Atlanta as well. Thank you for being here. So, wow, you said a lot, with the adversity piece. I think the processing of that can definitely be challenging,
Mhm.
and you can feel like you just kind of want to check out, you know. Um, I don't want to get involved with it, but
There's enough happening in our world to be able to say, I don't want to have to deal with any of these things. And I think it's impacting, well, not I think, but I just know it's impacting marginalized groups. It's impacting those that were already in places of oppression, or places where, voices, interest, and desires to be able to move within this world are just being constantly pushed down. So I
yeah,
think that is a reality that we have to navigate, on a constant basis. When I say we, I'm talking about marginalized Black people, brown people, those that are, a lot of this legislation is being put against and put in
mm,
place. An erasure is essentially what is trying to happen, is what it looks.
gotcha. Yeah, no, that's good. So some more folks have joined us. I need to pause. We got Michael Cork in the house here in Tallahassee, and my favorite son checking in from the BK. Thank you for being here, JB. Love you. So, I just I don't see the adversity getting any better.
Mm,
We talk about these tariffs and some of the other things, some of the other policy changes that are being proposed and on deck, and it's just like, how so the last time we got together in February, one of the things that I mentioned was we need to tap into what? Our spiritual wellness.
yes. Mm,
So whatever that looks like for you, you need to tap into it and be in community with folks that share your same spiritual beliefs, because that is what's going to ground us and help us get through.
yeah, and I think what you said is spot on, Nicole. Like, being able to have those communities where we can be empowered, we can be uplifted, because we are going to need it more than ever.
Mm,
To be able to have other people in your life who can uplift you. And I think that's just a question to ask, like, who in my life is empowering me? Who in my life am I looking toward to be able to get sound wisdom and advice and direction to navigate what I'm experiencing,
absolutely.
and not feeling the push to say I need to change all of this.
Mm,
And I think that is often what we feel, is because it seems like calamity is our we see it, thanks Keisha. Yeah, it's like it's calamity that is there, and we can deal with that at a mental state, at a mental level, but we have to also ask ourselves, how are we processing with the people that have been put in our lives? And you need someone in your life to be able to encourage you, to be able to say, what are you responsible for? And to
mm,
be able to bring us back down to the ground sometimes, because sometimes these problems feel so weighty that we just don't want to have to live in the reality that we are seeing each and every day.
mhm. Very, very true. Very true. Oof. So, okay, spiritual wellness, community,
Mm,
counselors. These are all some potential solutions to processing through adversity. That self awareness piece that we initially started this discussion with,
Mm,
working to be present rather than just performing, right?
yes. And
Mhm.
it's there essentially needing an outlet. When we don't, coming back to vulnerability, when we don't have a space where we can be vulnerable, the automatic reality is that we will judge what we don't process. So
Mm.
we become judges of our own emotions to say, "Oh, I don't think it's good to be angry because anger means that I won't be approved. So I'm not going to feel that anymore. I'm just going to push it somewhere in my body and it'll come out in some other place." Or I can't be perceived as sad because then I'll be perceived as weak. So I can't feel that. So let me just go ahead and push that down. So we begin to judge these things that are actually intrinsic and good for us to be able to feel. One of
Mhm.
my other good colleagues and friends, Dr. Mike Zoda, he always says we need to learn to connect to release as opposed to analyze to control. And most of the time we spend our life analyzing to control as opposed to connecting to the emotion to release it.
That is so good. Connect to release rather than analyzing to control.
And many times it's the first part where we are just analyzing the situation to figure out how we can control it, to
Mhm.
not have to deal with the actual emotion itself.
Yeah.
So our brain gets really creative on how it tries to control what we feel. And we have to rewire it to be able to think differently and approach something differently. And that
Mhm.
takes work. If I planted a seed, of anger 20 years ago, and that little seed of anger grew up as a tree, and now it's got fruits and it's got animals and it's got water around it and everything that has come out of that place of anger, and I've never done anything with it. That's going to be a hard tree to try to uproot because it's been there for a long time. So I think finding ways
That's a great visual.
to uproot, and you just think about that one emotion. I mean, you got multiple, now you got a garden of
Listen, angry trees.
angry trees and a bunch of different things that we have just taught ourselves to suppress. And I think when you think about the racial implications of processing our emotions, there are so many different levels to that and layers to say, there's already preconceived notions about certain people, black people,
Mhm.
where we show up, they might say, "Oh, they're angry because they look this way or they raise their voice," so they're, like we talked about, like having to shift and feeling
Right,
curated and stuff like that. Well, these are
right. Code
the
switching.
the stereotypes, the code switch, and all the things that we we navigate, which make us feel more inauthentic to wherever we're at.
Mhm. Janina said, "Wow, connect to release rather than analyze to control." My God, on today. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She said, "What inspires me is that our people are resilient creatives. In times of
Mm,
conflict and frustration, our creativity thrives."
yes.
Agree, agree, agree.
Yes,
Mm.
and I think to add, Janita, that's such a good point. To add on to that, in order for that creativity to thrive, we have to be in a place where curiosity is possible. If our curiosity is sapped, then our creativity is not even going to be able to like bring itself to where it needs to be. So, what environments are actually inspiring that level of creativity that we can get into? And when we feel that level of creativity, are we able to sustain curiosity? Because I think once we've stopped being curious and that joy has kind of like erased itself, then it's like, all right, now I got to come back to a drawing board and say, do I need to redirect to put myself in a place where I can kind of have that creativity and curiosity and experience compassion in all of it?
So that goes back to that quote. Again, I don't remember who said it last time, but it was let's be curious, not furious,
That's right. That's right.
so that we can remain creative, right?
Because that's an essential part, I think, of our humanity in existence is when we don't have outlets to be able to be creative or
Mhm.
be curious about what we're feeling, then we start to have to feel like we have to change and shift to meet the liking of someone else or whatever it may be.
Right.
And we reduce that level of curiosity and creativity.
Absolutely. One of my mantras is that we are our best and highest self when we are creating, because we
Mhm.
are created by the creator to create.
Mhm. He walked right on in. He wanted to join in too, and yes,
It's,
highest of creation. Speaking of creation, my our little creation just walked through the door a minute ago.
it's all good. It's
He wanted to
all
say
good.
hi. Uh-huh.
All good. It's all good. But no, I think all of that is so spot on, in terms of our resilience and our creativity, in, as Janita said, in times of conflict and frustration. That's when, some of the best works come out, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think, if we are to take on this level of vulnerability, we also have to ask the other question is, where do I need to become more resilient? Is like I wanting to be vulnerable, but I also need to figure out where can I grow in my resilience. Resilience being um, my self-awareness and self-control,
Yeah,
being able to have both and growing in both in whatever environment we find ourselves in. And really it comes with tackling our expectations, to be able to say, like, what are we truly expecting from the communities and the environments that we're put in?
mm,
And how are we exploring that internally to see, are they in reality? Are these things actually real, or are these things that I am like wanting to not have to feel a certain way or make someone else make me feel a certain way?
gotcha. Okay. Quasi said, or N do not, I think he meant do not quote, "Build, buy black, support black, unite black, don't shoot black, love black." Right. Okay.
Yes.
Gotta be blackity black, black, black.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Quasi. I think that's a whole other that's that's a conversation. But I think we should support our Black businesses, build with one another, but also the reality of don't compete. Sometimes we just try to compete and like not help one another. I think that's a huge aspect where we just hurt ourselves a lot in supporting one another. Is that we feel like we need to compete as opposed to actually come together and figure out how we can collaborate.
For sure. Thank you, Quasi.
Hmm.
Marcus, I was paying someone for marketing and saw no results. I was furious, LOL, but this caused me to desire to go back to school to learn marketing for myself. What is this called?
Okay, so I see you were upset about paying for a service that you were expecting and didn't get it. So marketing. So you decided to learn marketing for yourself. So that sounds like, to me, it sounds like self-efficacy.
Mm,
So it sounds like you're wanting to have enough belief in yourself to do something, to be able to learn a certain skill. So there's a level of like self belief that I think you're trying to improve or grow, based off of your question. And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Maybe just respond, but I think that's what it sounds like to me.
okay. Thank you for that, Marcus.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, we have actually come to the end of our conversation. So I want to give you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and tell folks how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nicole, so much. Again, my name is Aaron Tillman. I'm the owner of Inspire Hope Collective, which is my counseling private practice, but also I do training and consultation with organizations in various industries. You can connect with me via LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram at Aaron J. Tillman. You can find me on LinkedIn at Aaron Tillman, and then I'm also on X or Twitter at atilly0805. And I would say, the last quote that I'll share with you is a favorite quote of mine, James Baldwin, and he says, "Not everything you face will change, but nothing will be changed until you face it." So,
Mm, that's good. That's real good. Good stuff. You dropping gems tonight, boy. I tell you. Dropping gems. Okay, look at here. All right, Kesey, this is a really great conversation. Thank you both. Our pleasure.
Thank you, Kesey.
Let's I guess part 3 will be in December. What you want to talk about? We already talked about it.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
We can come back in December. He can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do it. Yes, Marcus. Marcus is my cheerleader. You hear me?
Oh,
He gonna make sure that he tell the people to like and subscribe Conversations with Nicole.
please.
Because y'all know I be forgetting to tell y'all that. But yes, please. For those of you who have not liked and subscribed, please like and subscribe. We are here Mondays and Wednesdays, although we weren't here last week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, focus on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities primarily. And so we need all the support we can get. We do. So thank you, Marcus, for telling the people for me. I appreciate you.
Yes.
We got She Academy, Miss Quay. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you, Quay, for being here. And Dee Dee, I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Dee Dee. Appreciate you so much. So I hope this was beneficial. Let's keep this conversation going. I still think it's very relevant and will continue to be relevant in the days and the weeks and the months to come as we have an elections coming up next year. So a changing of many of the guards will probably be taking place, as well as some of the policies. And so we're going to need to be able to process through adversity.
Right.
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm. Yeah. Marcus, outstanding broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Boston. We
Thank you,
appreciate you.
Marcus. We appreciate it.
I think Kesey is snapping for us. So
Kesey.
thank you, Kesey. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
All right, good people. Well, Aaron, great conversation, and we'll see if I can
Thank
get you
you.
on the books for December.
We'll do it. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, wonderful. Well, y'all have a great rest of the evening, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Y'all.